Hi everybody, welcome to How Important is Work Flexibility. Welcoming back Anna, who we also spoke to last week, and continuing our discussion about diversity. This week we're going to delve a little bit more into balancing globalization and employee needs.
Okay, so Anna, welcome again. A very interesting discussion we had last week, and I think this week it's good that we're following on in terms of what we've done. And as I said, it's almost like you take your onion and just peel back the layers, and you can just go on and peel and peel. So it will always be one of those topics. So just to introduce Anna again to everyone who has not seen the first video, Anna Sargentson from Inclusive Recruiting. They do work with organizations and guide them in the process of inclusive recruiting. However, I'm going to leave it over to Anna to introduce herself in the organization, because I think, as I said before, she'll do a much more better job than me. So Anna, over to you.
Thank you, and thank you both for having me back again. So I'm one of the co-founders of Inclusive Recruiting with Vanessa Johnson-Burgess. We've been established now for 6 years. Very much a recruitment business that wears two hats. So we have a recruitment side of the business that focuses on providing diverse shortlists to our clients and challenging our clients on their normal standard recruitment process to really tackle the lack of diversity within recruitment. And then we also have a training side of the work, the business, where we deliver a series of workshops to organisations who are committed and serious about improving their own internal recruitment, induction, onboarding and leadership styles to become more diverse and, importantly, inclusive.
Okay, thank you for that introduction.
Thank you,
I
Anna.
know we were speaking earlier on, and Alison has this burning question that she wants to ask. I'm going to give it to Alison first to ask her question, and then later we can just chat about, you know, this whole thing about global diversity, where does it fit in, etc. But do you want to ask a question, Alison?
Well, the main topic that we're talking about is flexibility, and I still find a lot of clients, especially smaller clients, have an aversion to employee flexibility. They still think of it very much as a privilege, rather than something that's a necessity for daily life, for, you know, managing a diverse workforce and being inclusive and understanding and catering to people's needs. Obviously, they're great at catering to those needs if somebody needs to go to a dental appointment or there's a specific problem that they need to deal with. But as a matter of course, flexible working, home working, just tends to be still a bit of a sticking point. So I'm just really interested on your perspective and how are you finding it is out there, and what are different companies doing, and also the ones that are still a bit hesitant about embracing flexibility, embracing home working. What's your advice to them?
Yeah, really interesting topic, because as you say, Alison, I think it's still got a lot of negative connotations around it. People hear flexible working and think part-timer, not committed, not really career driven, and there's that, again, just an assumption made instantly about that individual who's there to ask for flexible working, which is 99% of the time completely not true and not the case. There's so many reasons why individuals need flexible working, and you could even ask, should someone have to justify those reasons of why they need flexible working? You know, actually someone just doesn't want to work non-stop and they want to have a life outside of work. There shouldn't be that need of, okay, I've got to make this sound as serious as possible to justify my request for flexible working. It can be a whole host of reasons, as we've touched on. Yes, parents are one of the key factors out there. Obviously, the costs of childcare are astronomical, especially covering school holidays. It's a big issue that's still not being addressed properly. Carers, people who are caring for either elderly or other members of their family who need that support, people who have disabilities who actually can't be sat at a desk for that long, or the journey to work, or a whole host of reasons. It certainly doesn't mean that someone is not committed, but unfortunately I think that is still the stigma attached to flexible working. It's our advice, and the way we work with clients who aren't yet embracing the idea, or who are still very nervous about it, is just have a go, open your mind, take down your biases and your assumptions of what this individual is or not going to deliver, and you'll often find that you'll have one of the most committed and productive employees that you've had before. I think with flexible working and remote working, which often ties in as well, it's really important that you've got clear boundaries and requirements set in place. What's not fair on either side is if a flexible agreement is taken and then one party tries to bend that. So flexible working, you agree a certain number of hours, and then that individual wants to reduce those hours after they've started, or the employer still expects that person to pick up their emails in the evening or deliver on their day off. The hours are there for a reason. So my viewpoint is very much as long as that role is being delivered to the standard that it needs to be delivered, why does it matter where or how many hours it's taking? And who are you to say that someone couldn't deliver that role in half the time that somebody else could? Actually, they're better at the job. So yeah, but I agree, there's still a long way to go. And another key thing I think that will help improve this is for individuals who are of a senior level to lead by example as well, and show themselves that they don't have to be sat at the desk first in last out every day to be delivering, that you can deliver on your role, and that you truly embrace that as part of your culture. You're not frowned upon, or everyone's looking at you leave because you've dared to get up at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock, or you're only in 3 days a week, so you're excluded from key meetings or key events that go on because they're always held on the days that you're not there. So yes,
I think it's interesting what you mentioned, because I can relate so much to it. I myself work part-time before I decided to become a business owner and go out on my own. And from that perspective, yes, the company I used to work for was so much encouraging about flexible working, accommodating people, etc., looking at their needs, looking at how can we help you. So if it is that you work from home X number of days a week, they would do that. However, for me as an individual, I found I was putting in so much more hours than just working that 4 days. And I had to tell myself, where's your boundary? Because yes, my employer, they are, they're giving me that flexibility of saying, yes, 4 days a week is fine with us. We don't have an issue with it. But on the other hand, they're also not saying, listen, you're giving us more than just the 4 days. And so I've got to put that boundaries in place. I've got to say, listen, it is only 4 days. I mustn't feel guilty about the fact that I'm not the 1 day in the office. And I think it's that whole mindset around that.
That's really important if you're a part-time worker. Last week, we were also talking about different generations and their expectations. I think tech startups in particular are very well known with the younger generation of being really flexible and really clued into the needs. And I think they really understand that, if you've got a problem that you're trying to solve, if you just sit at your desk and keep on keeping on, the chances of you finding an elegant solution to the problem that you're trying to resolve just isn't going to happen. And they really understand that allowing people to walk out of the office, go get some fresh air, go and play a game of table tennis, or do whatever it needs to happen to allow them the headspace to think is so important. And they're not clock watching. They're not looking at the time that person is in the office. They're actually looking at the results that person delivers. And I think that's a real mindset change between, you know, ways of working and structures that probably we're used to, but thinking about how things can be better. It's about changing the mindset of the organizations to actually understand, well, don't focus on how long somebody is sat at the desk, focus on what results they're delivering, and is that what's needed? And if it is, so what about how long they're sat at the desk? Really?
And again, it's, you know, with more recognition now around stress and burnout, and you can have people sat at a desk for 60 hours a week. It doesn't mean that they're delivering their role. And we've heard of companies now who start having their meetings, you know, by, well, let's go for a walk along the canal, let's go for a walk, you know, through the park, and have this meeting instead of let's sit in the office. You know, it's like this whole, if we leave the office, we're not working, we're not being productive. It's getting, as you said, getting out of that mindset of this is where we are, and the minute we leave here, then you're not working or you're slacking off. Or it's actually, there's a whole host of settings that can mean someone is more creative, someone can solve that problem, someone can get some fresh air, some space, and then the answers become clear. Have those difficult conversations in a different setting, or those reviews, or whatever it is. And also the commuting time. If you look at what's spent, both financially and from a time perspective, what people spend commuting, who wouldn't want their employee to be saying, right, well, actually, I can log on at home and get 2 hours work done in the time that I would be sat on a train that's not moving, that's costing the business X amount of money each year on a rail pass. So
I know that when I used to work from home, I used to get so much more done, because I understand the argument for people to be co-located, because you have those casual conversations, you have those coffee conversations, which are also needed for creativity and productivity and getting to know people and getting stuff done. But also working from home sometimes allows you that space to think, to focus. So I think it's all about balance at the end of the day, isn't it? It's not just about doing this or doing this or doing this. It's about, and it is that flexibility thing. It's allowing fit for purpose.
Exactly.
That people can respond to what their needs are for that particular focus of the day.
And being adaptable, that can change as well. There may be a specific project that's going on where it is like hands on deck. We need to put the hours in and get this deadline or this particular topic achieved. But then after that, you know, take some time in lieu, have some, you know, headspace, recover. It's not straight back into it and keep going at that same speed. And yes, certain roles do require you to be on site more, of course. It's not saying that every single role can be done remotely all the time. But one of the key things I think we find speaking to candidates is if there's no flexibility offered whatsoever, it's almost feeling like you're being treated like a school child. It's that, well, I have to be here when the bell rings. That's when I'm allowed to take my lunch, and I can't go till someone's there to pick me up. It's like, why is that instant distrust of, if you're not here, you're not working? You know, you're taking the mickey and you're skiving. So it creates that culture already of dictatorial. You've got to come in and we've got to cross you off the register and know where you are. How long did you have for lunch? How many breaks have you had? It's like people want to be treated like an adult, as you say, particularly the generations coming through now. This stuff is really important to them, and it is make or break as to whether they join an organisation, as to how they're treated and the work hours they're expected to put in. I'll deliver my job and let me deliver it in the way that's best, and you pay me according to my, you know, job that I'm supposed to deliver, not how many hours I'm sat in the office.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, we're proving it today. Technology, you know, use technology. You don't have to be in the same location. Meetings can be held, you know, via video conference, and more than 10 people can log in at the same time. So, you know, you don't physically have to be sitting around the same table. No. And I agree with you. We need to change our mindset as employers and as business owners, in that my employee knows they've got a certain output they need to deliver. Leave them to deliver it. If they don't take an hour to do it and they want to put the stress on themselves in doing it, fine. I just want my piece of work that I gave you to do. If you're going to take the full day, fine. Do it how you want to do it. But I'm going to be measuring you on the quality of what you gave me at the end of the day, not how long it took or when you did it. And I think for me as a business owner, and when I start employing people, that's what I need to take into consideration. Focus on the end product and not the input that goes into it.
And also, I mean, half our team works remotely, and we've hired them because they're great at their job. We trust them implicitly, and they deliver. And it's, we might only see them once a quarter or sometimes once every 6 months, but we can speak every day if we need to. We can certainly do video chats. So the interaction is there, but do we need to be sat next to them? I'm based up in Leeds. Vanessa is down in London, and our office is London based. And I like to go down there and have the office atmosphere, but also I can work from home and have that mix to what suits the business needs and my needs at the time. It can't be, like you say, one size fits all. We wouldn't have half our team now if we said, right, you've all got to come and work in Leeds, or you've all got to be in London. And you'd never know the great talent that you're missing out on, because you're just saying, unless you can get to the office and be here at this time every day, then you're not right. What about all the amazing people that, for various reasons, might not be able to fit into that timescale, but can absolutely deliver above and beyond what you're looking for?
I've got to say, I admire you and Vanessa in that you lead by example. So your company's inclusive recruiting. And we're talking about this now, but the topics we spoke about last week as well. It's just, for me, perfectly in terms of this is what you do as a business, but you also lead by example, which for me lends a lot of credibility to what both of you do.
I think we'd feel pretty bad if we didn't. If we had an office where everyone was chained to their desk from 9 till 5, and yes, we all look the same and came from the same backgrounds, I think we'd be caught out quite quickly. But I say we've got a really diverse mix, and it's great because we do get completely different opinions. Vanessa and myself couldn't be much more different. So, and that works really well. We both bring different things and different opinions and different ideas and ways of working, and then the rest of the team as well, come up with things that I would never have thought of, or Vanessa, and it's having that different perspective and being open to it. And I think that's where, when we're working with an organization who's really, no, that's not going to work for us, it's like, well, you are missing out, and you will fall behind, because there'll be people who decide that you're not for them. It's not that you don't want them, they don't want you.
Yeah. I think one of the challenges that I struggled with when I worked within corporate, when I was doing international HR for a couple of companies, is that you've got offices in multi-locations, and then we're talking about globally and not regionally. And that brings different aspects to it, in that where they are located, they've got their own diverse workforce, they've got their own issues you've got to deal with, and what you're going to do in the one office, say for example, in Chicago, does not mean you're going to implement exactly the same thing in the London office.
Yeah.
And it comes back to what you mentioned earlier on, it's not one size fits all. And that's my challenge when I work with the international clients, in that, looking at it from a different perspective. And I find if I ask employees, what do you think will work? This is what we've implemented, for example, in the London office. Do you think it's going to work in the Chicago office or not? Or what do you think will happen? And just getting their input, because I find I'm not the one that should come up with a solution alone. They sometimes come up with a solution I wouldn't have thought about.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. No, it's really important. And again, it comes back to that valuing differences and different cultures, because obviously you have huge cultural differences. So you can have a diverse mix of people, but you've got that country culture as well.
Yes.
ingrained, and can be very, very different. And we worked with a company in Manchester that is a Swiss owned company, but they have offices in America, in China, or and Costa Rica, and they're all completely different cultures, of course. So we do a session there on, again, this inclusive leadership. You've got to respect and understand and educate yourself around the different cultures. Know why someone's reacting like that, or why that's offensive or not appropriate in that country, or that style of working or that style of leadership just won't work there as it does, but it might be absolutely brilliant here. So it is about taking time, putting in the effort to educate yourself and understand the differences, and valuing those differences, and recognizing that they bring great things if you respect them and use them together properly. If you keep trying to push your way or one way onto several different cultures or several different size of business or different state, of course it's not going to work. And that's where people can think, well, this just doesn't work. We all need to stick with what we know. But I think, it can bring great things, but you have to take that time and the allowance, and again, set the boundaries, set the rules in place, the different working times, the different, obviously the different hours, the different languages, the different interpretations. Be very clear of what's going on and the messages going out, so you get that collaborative feeling.
Yeah. Have you actually got a good story that you could share, without sharing the client name, of course, where you've gone in and you've helped them embrace a more flexible approach, and it's improved their sort of diversity offering?
The one I was just talking about there in Manchester is probably a good example, because they were very, they're a global organization, so they're used to having a lot of different cultures and different languages, but also that diverse mix. So they actually had quite a diverse team already. What they found is that maybe the retention rate or the engagement rate was low, and like I say, you've got individuals in there who, whether they are returning to work or whatever reason, but actually really wanted and valued that flexible working. And it was a bit of an alien concept, but actually when they looked at it and realized, when you've got such a diverse mix and a multicultural team, people might want to be leaving every other weekend to go home or to travel to see family, and that means so much more to them than an extra X amount on their salary, or an extra, this bonus or that benefit. It's like, actually, to have that flexibility for you to say, right, X amount of weeks a year, you can finish on a Friday at 12, or you can have, X amount towards travel time, or so that worked really well, and they've really embraced it, and the team are much more engaged, and it's I think it's really cemented that culture there now, that they're able to keep attracting the talent, because they're pulling from a pool that's very small. So you need to go broader. You've got to expand your pool to find the talent that they need. They've got some very niche roles. So you've got to be prepared to adapt and offer that flexibility to attract the best people.
Were there any particular stories that stuck in your mind, with one culture wanting one thing and a different culture wanting something else? Were there any particular differences that stuck with you?
Well, I think in that group, we did with the senior leadership team, we had about 6 different cultures just in there. They were all based in Manchester, but and there had been several frictions brewing, shall we say, and actually when we went through, there's a piece that we do around Hofstede, I don't know if you've heard of him, and the cultural differences, and we tailored it to them specifically, and it really broke down those barriers, and there was even some laughs around that recognition of, okay, that's why you drive me mad, or that's why we've been clashing over that point, or we're never going to agree on that, or so it's working with people who are prepared to look at themselves as well and say, okay, I know that I've got improvements to make here, and that I'm accountable for this piece, or that I've judged someone and assumed that they should just do it like me because my way's the right way. So we tend to find that once you've got over the initial, are we really going to go here? And people like, okay, yeah, actually, this is a really worthwhile exercise to start those conversations going and admitting how they can work better together.
Yeah, you're right. I think the conversation part is so key and so important, and it seems to happen within a workshop type of context. And people are so scared outside of a workshop to even go up and talk to someone and understand their background and their differences. But yet, once you initiate that, you find people are willing to talk. They want to talk. They want to share. They want to educate. And I mean, I take myself. If somebody comes up to me and said, you know, I know you're Muslim, but you don't wear the hijab. You know, you're not your traditional Muslim female. And then I'll say, come, let's chat about it. Let me give you my background. Let me explain to you where I grew up, how I grew up. And yes, we all come from the same religion, but it doesn't mean we all stereotype and box in, you know, into that same area. And they were like, oh, I'm glad I've had this conversation with you. You know, it's just opened up my eyes so much. And I'm like, and they're like, I was so scared to ask you. And I'm like, no, you know, it's like, I could have just said, no, I don't want to have the conversation with you.
Yes.
But yes, I love, because it's part of, for me, it's part of educating people. And if they don't ask, they're not going to know.
No, as long as, like you say, there is a balance of asking respectfully. And I think some people do go too far and put a lot of onus on people to then, or ask inappropriate questions. But I think that's one feedback we've had from every single workshop we've done with clients is that you've got that group of people in the room who maybe they're a peer group, they're a leadership team, or, you know, and they work together every day talking about business issues, but they all say, we've never spoken like that to each other. We've never been that honest. We've never started those conversations, or I never thought that about that person. You know, we break down all those assumptions and they go through some key activities that show them in a different light. And it's a great starting point then to say, right, okay, nobody's perfect here. Nobody's got all the answers. Nobody's doing everything brilliantly. So let's get rid of all the egos and work together and say, right, let's start. We're all on an equal footing here. Let's do it together.
Have you got any good advice for an employee that perhaps is in a position where they would really like more flexible working options, but they're working for a company that's still resistant?
Yeah, I would say be very clear that, you know, to take your time to do your research, understand your rights, what you're perfectly entitled to ask for, but be clear of what you want. I think what frustrates employers who are still on the fence or see it as a negative is when someone comes and asks for flexibility and then that seems to change, or it seems to vary each week, or it's like, well, I want this now, but in 3 months it might be this. Over the summer holidays, I need this. So I think they've got to respect that at the end of the day, it is a business that needs to function, that has an agenda to achieve. So be clear of what you're asking for and, you know, be reasonable, but explain the reasons behind it to a degree and why you feel that you will, you know, deliver more. It could be, well, actually, do you realise that if I work these hours or I didn't come into the office till this time, I would actually be able to start work at 7 in the morning and by 9 I would have already done 2 hours. Or, you know, having that someone who might not mind doing emails at 8 o'clock at night, if they're able to finish at 3 o'clock and they say, look, I would work better if I can then do 8 till 10 every night instead of 3 till 4. As long as that clarity is there. I think where it's a bit grey and fuzzy, that's when it frustrates employers and they're just like, look, this is just going to be a mess and a headache. So be clear on what you want and what you're going to deliver by having that flexibility.
Really good advice.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's our session for today, actually. It was nice chatting to you again, Anna.
Absolutely, thank you.
And I think, you know, we learned so much in this session as well, exactly the same like last week. But before we end off, I'd like to give you an opportunity to let our viewers know in terms of how you can assist them, if they feel they need more information or they'd love to go on a training workshop. What is it that you as a company offer that they might be able to consider?
Thank you. Well, first and foremost, we are a recruitment firm, so we can certainly guarantee that we always provide diverse shortlists. The training side of our business, we deliver a program called Inclusive Recruiting, which is all about an organisation's internal recruitment process and really breaking that down from attraction, advert writing, interviewing, interview panels. We do a lot of activities and exercises to really get people in the room on the same page and go through some quite challenging and difficult scenarios to put people in a situation that they've maybe never been in before, to start to understand how it is, to walk in someone else's shoes. And then give them the toolkit to really start rebuilding that process to be inclusive and attract diverse talent. That follows on with induction and onboarding, because there is no point doing your recruitment process if you're not having an inclusive induction and onboarding process to follow that up. And then inclusive leadership, because it's absolutely critical that senior individuals in any organisation are held accountable, are aware of themselves and understand their part to play and their power and privilege to be able to make this change. So there are 3 key workshops around the inclusive in recruiting. We also run another few series of managing difficult conversations, HR for non-HR managers, and offering companies a sort of a D&I audit if they don't know where to start, because often it's not as simple as, okay, we just want to rip up our recruitment process and start again. It's like, actually, where is the first point of call? And sometimes it's starting with the leadership team and making sure that they understand and are committed and engaged to the task ahead.
Okay. And if I remember correctly, you only offer this in-house, or do you offer do you only offer it in-house to companies, or do you offer it?
The majority of our workshops, we do them in-house, so we can tailor it to that specific organisation and sector, because we find that's much more relevant and beneficial. It's not just, here's a blueprint of how to have an inclusive recruitment process, which would be hugely different if you're a law firm or a manufacturing firm in Bradford, or a bank in the City of London, and obviously the size of your current team and current state. So we really do a deep dive before we come in and deliver the training, so we're tailoring it to the people who are sat there and what that organisation needs.
Okay. And because obviously our viewers is a combination of both corporates as well as small businesses. Those small businesses that do not have, let's say, a big workforce in terms of being able to deliver, having something like this in-house, is there anything you can suggest to them where they will be able to get the training, or what they can do?
Yes, I would say we'd be delighted to have a conversation with anyone, whatever size their team, because we do run ad hoc, more open events for businesses. We also do sort of breakfast briefing taster sessions on an ad hoc basis, but we have held events before where we'll have sort of 12 to 14, but they could be from several different companies. What we find is that companies then tend to want to take it in-house to tailor it, but it's, again, we can be very inclusive and make sure that we fit it to whoever they are and whatever their need is. That's the important thing.
Okay. I'd actually want to give you an invitation to say, when you have your open house sessions like that, please post it in our Prosper Through People page, and people can then contact you if they're interested in wanting to come on the workshop.
Great, thank you very much. I certainly will do.
Thank you, Anna. It's been a pleasure to talk to you last week in this, and thank you for your valuable input, all of the information that you've shared. I hope that's given people food for thought of our 2 weeks on diversity and inclusiveness. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you both. See you soon.
Okay, bye.